running full speed, but the markets are faster. Quasar Markets Live brings the world's top financial minds to you. Everything you need to know in one place. Learn from elite educators and gain a competitive edge, leveling the playing field for you. Join the conversation. Quasar Markets Live.
Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? BigBeat, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I had a great weekend. I cleaned my office and I did yard work. Wow. Look, that's not normal, but in this day and age, I think it is. You know, when I had a great chance over the weekend, I actually went boating a little bit too, and I had to get some glasses fixed, and I went into the mall. And not a mall that I normally go into, in a place called Brandon, Florida. And the mall was jam-packed. I mean, you couldn't even find and this is not winter. This is the middle of April, May, right? So you wouldn't expect that. And it was jam-packed. The stores were packed full. People are coming in, but I didn't see one thing. The one thing that you need to look at when you are looking at retail: do they have bags in their hands? Are they actually spending money? And I think the answer is no. They're just looking to get out of the house or looking to do something different. But you know what I did find was the restaurants. And we have been talking about this hard for so long that the upscale restaurants are doing better than the downscale restaurants, right? Fast food restaurants are not nearly as busy. And I think that's indicative of this economy right now.
Yeah, so I think we're seeing two things there. I agree with, we're seeing fine dining still doing good. Fast food doing well. It's that middle tier that's getting killed.
Middle tier, okay. I'll go along with that.
You know what I mean? We're seeing a move. Either people are saying this is a splurge night out. I'm only doing one this month, but I'm going to, Cheesecake Factory instead of Applebee's.
Yeah,
or
correct.
They're saying, hey, you know what? I can't afford Applebee's today, and we're going to McDonald's for dinner. Because reports have been pretty good, although we do have McDonald's on tap this week, so it'll be interesting. For me, man, it's all about earnings, right? You and I were talking a little bit before we came on. It's not all doom and gloom,
No,
at all, right? I mean, I said this the end of last week. I know, here, 72.6% of companies in the S&P 500 that have reported, 179 have reported so far, they are above estimates. So, we're seeing things are pretty good, right?
Yeah, I mean, you would think that the world, I mean, this is obviously a very busy week, right? We're going to see all this data points, as you said, earnings, and, we're also going to see some world data too as well. And we just saw ECB's Barkindo as well. Look, when you look at it from the perspective of the international world, yeah, we're doing okay, actually. We've always said that, right? When the United States gets a cold, the world gets the flu. And when you look at the next level of all of this, I need to see these earnings. But again, we got to see guidance, and guidance is either being pulled back, not being talked about. How do you protect?
I think that's what I wanted to talk to you about this morning, is what I think we better be aware of, because I see some people turning bullish, and I'm not against that, but I'm going to be a little bit of a protagonist here, because what I want to say is, we're going to see better past numbers because people tried to get ahead of the tariffs. I'm the perfect example. I knew I needed a monitor. As soon as everything came out, I went and I got my monitor before the tariffs could hit me. So I think there was an unnatural bump up that we might see reported in some of these earnings, and I want to compare them to the forward guidance. So I just want to balance the two. If they said I had great earnings and I'm still going to be great, then, I'm loving it. But, is there a playoff to worry about?
Yeah, and you're not wrong. I mean, actually, I did the same thing. We actually stocked up a little bit too on things that we know that's going to be hit by tariffs. What's interesting is we're seeing a lot of these companies went ahead and raised tariffs anyway.
I'm interested to see, because ex-U.S. Steel reports this week, and that's going to be a big one, because that was the first tariffs that went in place, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So, how did that play out? So I do think that
I think the question, though, is still the same, though. How many people, I mean, are we really building right now, or has the government really spent money on bridges and skyscrapers? And the answer is no. So, I don't think
prices. Did they raise prices to keep it in line with their foreign competitors, or are they showing an advantage? You know what I mean? That's what I want to see from it. And then the other part, though, of it that I want to point out too is I'm seeing a lot of mainstream media point to bad data right now. Keep in mind the bad data that we're expecting to see is because people bought in. A lot of this had to do with shipping containers I was looking at. And again, they didn't mention that shipping containers had an unusual bump in early April due to tariffs with people trying to get stuff on the water beforehand. And now, of course, the numbers are going to decrease, right? So, I just want to be, again, I tend to be that moderate in the middle. And I'm seeing one side, the side that can't wait to say that the administration is bringing our economy to a standstill, point out some numbers that, while those are numbers, the numbers have a reason. And the same reason that when we look in forward and backwards views on the Fed, we got to keep in mind that there might be some good news this month because people got ahead of tariffs.
Yeah, I mean, you saw the Secretary of the Treasury Bissett talking this morning and saying that it's up to China to de-escalate. No, it's not. It's up to both of us to de-escalate, right? It takes two to tango. And, putting it all on China is probably a wrong stance here. I think the problem here for me is that we are the ones that agitated. Yeah, I get it. China has been raising rates and kicking our butt in trade for a very long time. But at the same time, it's up to both of us as a country to actually do this. And so I don't really know that I like that, we'll post Lucky Charts. Good morning, Lucky Charts. It's a good morning because no nuclear war, JP Morgan. Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
He's absolutely right.
I can't argue with that, Lucky Charts. Good morning, my friend.
Look, he's right. And so we've been talking about for the longest time is that the escalation of war. I mean, you saw from Putin this morning saying that, well, I'm going to pause all, firepower from May the 8th to the 9th and possibly the 10th because of winning World War I Day. He seems to like winning wars, so that's not going to back him off. So he's saying because he won a war in World War I. I believe the World War I was won made League of Nations, of which they're NATO member of. So I don't really understand the philosophy there.
I mean, listen, and that's what's so scary, I think, right now. You've got three leaders at a table who are all playing strip poker, but they're already all naked. That's
a great visual.
None of them want to admit it. All of them
short of that one.
What's that?
So we should make a short of that one.
But that's what we're at. I mean, whether it's China, Russia, or the U.S., and I'll throw a fourth amigo in there and say the ECB. It's just you look at these things and it makes it tough. Hey, on the good side of that, crypto moving up nicely. Bitcoin back above 95 here, 95,392. Some of the alts really moved up, pretty nicely too here this morning, recovering a little bit of blow off on Saturday as people decided to take some profit. It was a pretty good week across the board, so you can't really argue with that. But a pretty good move there. As we look sort of to the indices, we look like we're going to open up about 10% on the Qs. SPY is going to open up about 13 basis points here. So we're starting off about pretty flat. What I'm happy to see is the VIX sitting at 25.19, Steve.
Yep.
Still staying pretty low for us.
It's interesting. I was reading Bank of America's global research this morning about how the S&P 500, that out of 19 of 20 different metrics, that the S&P is still expensive compared to. Okay, I understand Bank of America, but there's a lot of cash in the sidelines. And if there's anything that I know at rich people, they don't like cash. They don't like cash at all.
They can't have cash, right? They have to have it work for them. And, money managers only, Steve Flanagan's talked about that with us many times. Money managers have to put money to use. No one wants to hear, we only earned X% last quarter because we held 3/4 of your money in cash.
Correct. Yeah. And when you look at it from that perspective, where are they moving the money to? And look at 95,500 on Bitcoin. You got to wonder if believe it or not, Howard, as long as you and I have been in crypto since we're the OGs, are the institutions really now becoming like a kumbaya moment now in Bitcoin?
No, this was retail that bought in. This was retail. Okay. This was those weak hands. You hit those levels again, and they bought back in. at what will be, I do think we have a better chance to move to the downside for a quick dip before we see an appreciable move through 100. But it's going to be volatile because you'll see let's watch the ETFs this morning. Inflows were pretty big last week. Again, that tended to be retail. Yeah, I mean, right now, what it is though, there is low liquidity in general. So it doesn't take a lot of retail to move the needle. What happened is the institutions have bought up all the OTC, basically the OTC coins. When they do that, they know retail moves the market, and they can move the market through retail. So that's what you're going to be on watch for today, is definitely that. Without a doubt, that's what you want to keep an eye on today, is going to be whether or not, you start to see liquidations come out of nowhere.
Do you expect liquidations today at all? I mean, is that what we're going to see today?
I think we'll see some early morning volatility. Yeah, I think we'll see, between 9 and 10 again. This next hour, I'd be pretty careful, because it could go either side. We got some pretty high. Give me 1 second and give you the exact figure here. You're looking at about.
Is it because it's the end of the month and they are?
Well, no, you got $121 billion, in open interest right now. So that's why it's up high. That's an elevated level. I mean, we can get up a little bit higher, but not much. Usually once you get up even a little bit higher is where we see the liquidation. So. Your volume's big on the perps. You have a lot of open interest. I mean, we saw $205 million in liquidations overnight. So that's what moved it up. So, and we'll see people trying to catch that game today. And I think the reason you'll see it, Steve, is there's no clear direction right now. There is
I agree with
on both sides. So
a few weeks ago, I was saying the path of least resistance is to the upside. That was so clear to me. And when people were calling for the world to end and Chicken Little running around with chickens, listen, you're right. Now that path of least resistance is not to the upside, but it's not to the downside either. It's
but what you have is those people who have held on, but really did it holding their grit in their teeth. The Paul V's of the world. Once it gets back to 100, there's a good chance they dump out. You know what I mean? Is they say, okay, I'm back, I'm even. Let me out. So that's why I think we're going to see some volatility.
Okay, so that's a good point. Kind of helps people out here. When you do that, when you buy a position and you see it sink on you and you're not a happy camper, and when it gets back to that same point where you're even, we call that beaching it. That's when you beach a stock or beach an investment. I would tell people not to beach. I have several times over the weekend. Yeah. Don't beat your investment this time around. Sometimes I would say, yeah, you know what? There was some selling there for a reason in the past. But this time, I don't see a reason to beat your investments because
you held through this. Yeah.
Correct. Because the thesis in the past was not the thesis of today, right? Your thesis is because I want my new Nike shoes. But the thesis has changed, tariffs and everything else. So once that gets off of the plate, that's what we've been saying, right? Any good news and we're okay. I think you don't want to beach anything right now. I think.
Yeah, I'm with you here. We're both on the same boat with that.
Right.
But let's face it, it's going to happen with Bitcoin because we know so many people bought at that $100,000 level, and as it gets up there, especially if it fails once or twice, they'll start to capitulate out of it. So we do have to keep that in mind. We got all kinds of earnings this week. Microsoft on deck. Meta on deck, Amazon on deck, Apple on deck, McDonald's, Starbucks, UPS, GM, you name it, they're on. Any particular ones you're more interested than others, or you just sort of want to see them all?
I really do want to see them all. Look, yes, there is one sector that I am very interested in, and that is the mining sector. Trump has mentioned it several times that he wants, manufacturing back here. In order to manufacture more, we need more raw materials. So our manufacturing companies getting ahead of the game here, shall we say, and buying up those raw materials before. If they are, then we are seeing a little bit. I saw where IBM this morning said that they were going to move another $100 million back to the United States to manufacture and build and create here. Okay, you know what? That's pretty good. We're hitting okay. White House press secretary Catherine Leavitt now says you'll be hearing more about trade deals this week. Okay, let's see them. I want to see that.
Yep, no, absolutely. I mean, that's what we all want, right? It is that's what we're all asking for. So, news now is what we actually do sort of need to see.
Now, let's remember one thing. She is press secretary, so it is her job to be the mouthpiece of the White House. But, yeah.
And you mentioned miners. I was trying to find my notes here. Unfortunately, with there being about literally 1,500 earnings reports that my chat GPT broke down for me here. I'm trying to find Zeus and a couple of the other miners that were on there that I thought were going to be interested. I actually said, oh, these are a couple that I want to keep an eye on, like you're saying, some of the mining companies out there. But I mean, you've got so much going on this week. There isn't a sector that doesn't have huge earnings. I apologize. Yeah, I don't really, like I said, it is literally 1,500 deep to try to look through.
It's a lot. Yeah. I mean, we've got a lot here. I mean, look, I think if you look at it from the perspective of an overall arching theme, look, if we took all 115 of them from this week and threw them all in Chat GPT after earnings on Friday, and kind of give us a better feel for that, I think that's a much better situation, right? I mean, it's not as Chat GPT. I would leverage it and tell you put it all in the Quasar Markets AI, because we have 18 AIs running through it. But I think the next level of all of this is that what is doing the best, right? And if you think about it from cash side, banks are probably doing very well, holding a bunch of cash, preparing for housing, preparing for cars, because if everybody's buying a car now, but to get ahead of it, right, then obviously banks are doing very, very well. Those loan originations, right? So I think your banking sector will probably give you a little bit of maybe a leg up, shall we say.
Yeah, the problem there, though, well, not the problem. The bigger banks already went. There's not many big ones left.
That's right.
There. There's a couple of small ones. Ones that I'm going to keep an eye on. You got Domino's Pizza again. I want to see what they're saying about the consumer. That I think they hit all across the U.S. and I think they hit the consumer that's getting hit hard. You got Hilton. I want to see if people are traveling. RCL, another one of your favorite companies, is on deck this week. I do want to see what's going on there. Steve, have you been getting more free cruises offered, or what are you seeing from your side?
More. I mean, it's not stopped. I mean, obviously, I cruise on Royal Caribbean, and the key to Royal Caribbean is keeping their pipeline full, right? I will tell you, there's a couple of interesting issues here that I've noticed. The first issue is Haiti. You're seeing now I understand over the weekend that it kind of leaked out. So let's kind of talk about that. That there's a list of countries that the White House is now going to say that we as Americans can't go to, and Haiti being one of them. Antigua, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, and Nevis. Seriously? That will affect Nevis. I mean, Nevis is a great country. St. Lucia, I got friends that live in St. Lucia. Haiti, I mean, Labadee is not really a part of Haiti. You're not going into downtown Port-au-Prince. When you go on a cruise, you go to Labadee, which is in the middle of nowhere. It's a small island. All right, so now the cruise lines can't go there. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to go to their own islands, more of it, and they're probably going to make more money. So this might actually be good for the cruise lines, which Trump says he's happy with, because he wants the cruise lines to register in the United States and not register in Bahamas, Bermuda, and the Netherlands, right? So that's a very interesting place right now. But I think the cruise lines might do very well. Now, I'll also tell you something else that I thought was very interesting, is Disney. I noticed that they raised we talked about this last week. They raised their prices last week for 2026. But Orlando, Universal will do very well. They have 3 new parks. So that means that Disney is going to really kick it in gear. And Disney bought land in North Carolina for their expansion of their, like, in Orlando, we call it celebrations, for people who want to live near the Disney World property. Disney is absolutely saying goodbye, Florida. They are working on that right now. And I will tell you, if that's the case, then this could be a big change in Disney's profits here.
Wow, you think they'll leave Florida?
No, they won't leave Florida as in Disney World, but they won't increase their foothold there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
They did the same thing in California back in the
they
right,
left California basically, but that's where it started. Yeah, absolutely.
Right in the 50s and 60s, quietly, Walt Disney himself was quietly buying land in the Orlando area. They're doing the same thing in North Carolina, and I'm telling you, they're looking at other places too. So I wouldn't be shocked if you see Disney, the next Disney World. Yeah, Diego just posted he was at Universal this weekend. Place was packed. Yeah, I mean, those of us who live here, absolutely, it's totally packed. Not only is it packed, but they're spending money, experiences again, right? So, Disney Springs is a good example.
So that's interesting because Disney has said that their stuff's down. So I wondered, I know Universal kicked off their new stuff, right? They just do a huge upgrade. So I'm wondering if that's bringing them in, because I also noticed, did you see MGM laid off every concierge in Las Vegas outside of Bellagio and Aria?
I did. I will be in Vegas for the Bitcoin conference. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see Vegas and seeing what's going on there, getting the lay of the land again. I haven't been to Vegas in a couple of years. No, I guess it was last year. But I mean, when you look at it, is gambling up? And I think gambling's issue here is not gambling as in let's go to Vegas. I think gambling, a lot of sports betting was the biggest input, and now you're seeing that, and you're seeing it with things like Hard Rock Bet and Twin Spires out of Kentucky for the Derby, which is coming up, by the way. Yeah. So there's a lot here going on, to be honest with you. I think we're very close to getting some. You said this morning, I think pretty well. We're very close to getting some better numbers, right? Some better understanding of this week. And I think that's what I really want to get through this week. And I think a lot of other people do too. That's why I don't think we're going to see as much volatility today. We will see it probably tomorrow and on the 30th, obviously, with options. But I think people really want to see what's really going on. And, I keep hearing Trump playing 4D chess. I mean, I'm not seeing the 4D chess. I'm seeing that he's backing off, which is smart, which is a good move. But when you lay off all of the State Department, that's a problem. So there's this big malaise that people aren't seeing how all the pieces are moving, right? Whenever a new business is being built, I mean, I'm a good example of that with Quasar, right? A lot of people didn't really understand all the things that we put into it, and really now it's like, whoa, look at all the stuff you did, right? But it takes time to do that. So if Trump is needing time in order to make all his pieces fall in place, I would tell him he needs to accelerate that timeline, because people are now getting nervous. I mean, he's got the worst poll numbers now in history of the last 80 years. I think someone had said 100 even too. When you're unhappy, that doesn't just, because there's no election coming up, but that does go into the economy, right? Oh, I don't know how the economy is going to do, so I'm not going to buy that new computer. I'm not going to go out and buy that new car, even if I'm trying to get ahead of the tariffs, because now it's too late, right? It's interesting because even my own parents were like, well, should we stock up? What should we get? Where are things made? All of a sudden, one of the things that I think is coming out of this is people are realizing where things are actually made. Howard, I think you being so long in the restaurant business, you already knew where things came from. I know where.
Everyone's going to be very surprised when they go to the grocery stores over the next few weeks, because I've seen it at the restaurant depot level where things are starting to be gone. Most of our seafood comes from China.
Yeah.
Your scallops, your shrimp, either Indonesia, Vietnam, or Venezuela, and we sort of stopped Venezuela already. So, those are the things you're going to see really move up. That's why I have Pilgrim's Pride as one of the earnings I'm going to take a look at this week. That's PPC for those that don't know. I want to see what are they saying about costs, because they get feed from outside the country. Mm-hmm. And then what is their export demand? Is that changing? So I want to see Pilgrim Pride as one of the ones I'm looking at. Like I said, with Royal Caribbean that I'm looking at. I'm also interested. Robinhood reports this week. I want to see, again, what they have to say about crypto. what they have to say about trading volumes, all that stuff. They are a good basis into that. We also have CVS this week on the healthcare side, and Eli Lilly to keep an eye on. Two big ones there to keep an eye on.
And Eli Lilly's got the new pill that really has hit hims and hers. And I'm going to tell you, I said this 2 years ago when the shots came out, right? And as somebody who actually uses himself, I can't wait for the pill. I mean, look, I think that's going to be the next level of all this, that everybody takes a pill for breakfast and no people being overweight. So clothing, all those things, cotton, things that go into that, and restaurants, I think will continue to get hurt. I don't think anything's going to stop, right? Fine dining will do very well, I think.
Right, exactly. There's the insulated parts of it, but we'll see. Hershey's reporting this week too. I'm definitely interested in that because they are a very international company, right? We don't grow any cocoa here in the U.S.
That's correct.
So how does that get affected? MasterCard, which if you don't know, MasterCard's great because they get insight into how we shop. How do we consume things? Where do we do it? What are we doing? So they're able to tell us where we're spending our money. So I'll be looking to say, because they break it down, spending in restaurants was up and down, spending on leisure and travel was up and down, spending on consumer durables was up and down. So they're important. Kirkland's this week, KIRK.
Before you do that, Howard, do me a favor. I'm going to send you a link. I want you to post this and show this out. I'll do it here. I'll put it in the chat here, I think, for you. Yep. Show this screen here for everybody, for Hershey's. People always ask me, how do I know when what things are going and how's the world, especially at a Hershey's Park? Hopefully you can see that. 2 years ago, by this time, the park was already sold out for their passes, their summer passes. This year, the Hershey Summer Pass is not quite sold out. And not only, in fact, they haven't sold out, but they've actually lowered their price. You'll see if you click on the king size pass there, which gives you 2 tickets to Hershey's, as well as free parking, early access, and an all-year drink plan. They've actually lowered it. So think about that for a minute. That is crazy. The parking pass and a full day pass for summer and a dining plan for people is down to $343. If you put that in perspective to Disney World, which in 2026 is $200 a day just to get in the park. That's not dining.
Yeah, nothing compares to Disney in price.
Right.
Because again, I do Kings Island out here, and it's priced like Hershey's is basically.
Right. But look at Kings Island.
I mean, people are definitely, like you said, I mean, you don't usually, usually the best prices, they usually guarantee that the best prices are at Christmas time. They do their Black Friday usually and guarantee you that that's the best prices that they're going to have for the year. So that is a little surprising for sure. We are about a minute away. We are slightly up. Tick's looking pretty good. Advanced decline at about 1,000. So we really won't know until we get to the open here what we're going to get. I have put together, we get some moves to the upside. Got to look to see if we can break 480 on the Q is the next key resistance. And on the SPY, you're still looking at that 560, 420 area.
Hey, gold is still at 3,300. But over the weekend, I saw so many gold commercials. I mean, they just couldn't stop it. Gold coins, Monex. I mean, you name it. The companies were just going crazy in the number of.
And it's back down almost 10% from the highs. So it had to pull back for sure. Absolutely.
All right, we're open now.
Here we go.
Oil is 63.15 now. They're on spot. But not really much of a move. NVIDIA back to 109.92 here, 95. Get back to 110, please. And look, those of us who stuck with us, Howard and I bought it 105. He even bought it below me, actually. That was it, right? I didn't change my thesis on it, and it fell, but now it's back up. So we didn't beach it.
It's going to be interesting because we have a few things on the daily Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. That would
VIX
help.
is dropping here a little bit here, and we did hit 110 now. So yeah, I think we're good. Look, I'm looking at Ripple. Ripple's up almost 3% here, 231 again. So a lot of things going on in the crypto market here. 110.10. There we go, baby. Come on.
I will say I am a little concerned. I want to see what happens. Microsoft at the top of its linear regression on the daily, Netflix on the top, Tesla on the top. So we've seen some good moves by some of these. I wonder if they start to pull down the market a little bit here. So I'll be keeping an eye on that this morning for sure. Crypto-wise, Bitcoin taking, like I said, a little bit of a pullback here on the open. I will say Fed AI that I keep talking about in here moved from 60 up to 80 over the weekend. Has pulled back down now. Could give you another opportunity. Like you said, Ripple was all the way up. Ripple over the weekend hit as high as 236, Steve.
Yeah.
So we've seen some moves, some nice moves.
Bitcoin's been below 295. I don't like that too much.
Yeah, like I said, I thought we'd see it. The volatility kick in here. Advanced decline is positive around 2262 right now. Why did I do that again?
No, the tick just went through the roof there. Tick off the chart here for me. 413 now. Need to crunch that chart a bit. VIX still dropping here. Yeah, I mean, any good news out of China? I mean, if what they're saying is true, this White House, I'm not putting a lot of faith in, but if what they're saying is true, then the markets should. I think the markets are waiting. I will say this much: if what they're saying isn't true, then we could have a pullback, a pretty heavy one. And you know, you saw the
definitely seen a sell off on 7 of the 8 Mag 8 here. Google, the only thing that's holding up, the one that had an earnings report, so it has a little bit less volatility right now. Tesla did move to the upside, but pulling back a little bit. The others are giving up a little bit of steam here. This is a 5-minute chart across these mags.
Is Tesla stock? Is it now? Is it all about Elon now? Is it a proxy on Elon?
Well, that's what I've always thought it was. Unfortunately, that's why I always say it was don't fade the Musk. It wasn't about how they build cars, that's for sure. It was about the future and his vision. You know, let's see what happens as he gets back in there. Qs are now in slightly in the negative, 472.20. SPY, Dow Jones are to the upside. VIX did climb back above 25 here, so that's going to be something to keep our eye on here this morning, is what happens with the VIX. First move was a pretty big move to the upside. As Steve said, Bitcoin back below 95,000. Pretty quick sell-off there. And I do think you're going to have trouble breaking through 96.5 is where I see the key resistance here that people keep selling into at about that range. Same thing, Ethereum unable to hold above the 1800 level, keeps battling up against that 18 and dropping back below it.
Yeah, I mean, I keep hearing sell the rip, sell the rip, sell the rips. Every time there's a rip, sell the rip. I just wouldn't do that. I mean, sell the rip, buy the dip has been an adage, been around since the 70s. All right. I mean, it's interesting looking at retail, you know, using all these old adages and not understanding what it all means. You haven't seen a rip yet, right? That's the problem. I have not seen that rip yet. When I hear sell the rip and buy the dip happened, but there really hasn't been a selling sell-off rip yet. A sell-off rip is rip your face off rip. That's when you start to see that. So right now,
we've seen them start, but they all have kept on getting knocked down at the same level. So
right.
We keep dropping back down. It's whack-a-mole right now.
Correct. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Very good point.
So taking a look at what's moving to the upside today, I don't know anything about CG on ecology. Obviously, a health tech company up 33.66%. ADMA Biologics up about 12.95. You do see
ADMA is a good one. I like ADMA. I always have. Biotech, they are really one of the better ones.
Seeing a move up by AI again. Pony AI up about 4.56%. Aurora Innovation, another AI company, 4.29%. Peloton up about 3.89% here this morning. Tempest AI up 3.78%. We're back in space. I heard a lot of people talking about seeing the space shuttles take off out of SpaceX this weekend. AST up 3.62%. It's definitely quantum computing and AI this morning. Rigetti up 3.48%. Norwegian, so we got the first of the cruise lines moving up here today, about 3.48. Let's see if that's on their earnings yet. Nope, not on their earnings.
I did see the Center for Strategic and International Studies at CSIS came out this week with a space threat assessment for 2025. I would tell everybody here pretty much to actually read that report. I found it very interesting.
Trying to see. So NVIDIA, one of the main losers here, down 1.9%. Companies above it, nothing that's really that big of a company so far. Eli Lilly down about 1.8. They do have earnings this week. Did they have them this morning? No. SanDisk down about 1.57. So not seeing a ton of movement to the downside. Coinbase down about 1.14, seeing some sell-off there back at 207. So not a bunch of pumpers yet this morning, one way or the other, to be honest with you. More movement to the upside for sure. Nice move up by Verona Pharma, also 2.89% here today. Moderna up 3.27% also. Viking Therapeutics up 3.43. So we are seeing a little bit of healthcare move to the upside. Steve, you mentioned mining a little bit earlier. Albemarle up about 2.41%. Yep. Dow, who got beat up pretty bad after their earnings last week, up 2.39% today. Same thing, Southwest Airlines got beat up pretty bad last week after their earnings, up 2.38% here today. So seeing some of the recovery in those. Charter Communications up 2.32% here today. Another one, Hasbro, that got beat up last week, up 2.3%. It's really moved up since its earnings report nicely here over the last 3 days or so. Mag 7, we see Meta and Tesla. Tesla flying 292 here. So Tesla is definitely the flyer on the day. On the other side of that, NVIDIA getting hit pretty hard, now down 2.25%. Tick is staying positive, advanced decline, sticking right around that 2,500 level. We have seen everything except for the Qs move to the upside so far. That's really being held back by NVIDIA so far. Dow Jones recovering here a little bit today, up 63 basis points. Looking to have its third green day in a row.
Yeah, I mean, silver has only moved from 33.10 to 32.97. I mean, it's not, we're not seeing that. Well, so IBM says they plan to invest over 150 billion in the next 5 years. They're clarifying that now. That's not, IBM has quite a bit of money, so.
Yes, they do. Outside of technology, all the other sectors of the S&P moving to the upside here, being led so far by financials, as Steve said. Seeing if banks are holding money, looks like they are up about 1% here. They are the one that's highest up.
Here reports now that Spain finally, their what they call Red Electrica, which is their main power company there. If you don't know, Spain had a massive power outage throughout the country, and we're hearing that power has been restored in a lot of the bigger areas now in the cities. So glad to hear that it's back up and running.
DXY has been pretty quiet here, Steve, over the weekend, to be honest with you, and since last Tuesday, sticking in a pretty tight zone below the 100 level. Mainly between 98 and 100.
Yeah, IBM up 1.18. Boeing's up 2.54% this morning here. I think Boeing's back on track here.
Yeah, definitely nice move up by Boeing. Coinbase now down 1.73 to the downside. Carvana up 1.62%. Delta up 1.88. Seen a nice little recovery here, over the last couple of days from the airlines. FedEx up almost a point here this morning. Foot Locker up 7.67% here, Steve, this morning.
I've been saying that Nike has done quite well. I like it here, and I liked Foot Locker. I said that the malls are packed. I think people are, they're not. There's not a lot of bags, but I think that they're trying to get right to it.
Intel with a nice move up today, 2.44%. So again, got beat up pretty hard, had decent earnings, dropped the day after earnings as they got digested, now moving back up. So Intel moving back to the upside here. Looks like the chip sector is getting beat up a little bit today with NVIDIA down 2%.
Yeah, and I don't understand
AMD, Texas, and Qualcomm in the green. So there's a little bit of a mixed bag there. As we said, financials are definitely moving to the upside. Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all up more than a percentage point already this morning. Moving to the upside. Nice move up by Mitsubishi, 2.4% to the upside here.
Yeah, I think the selling in chips are stupid. I mean, go online and try to buy an NVIDIA chipset right now. Try to buy a GPU. It's extremely expensive. I was looking at computers over the weekend, and my. I can't even believe how much I'm having to think about paying for a computer. It's blowing my mind.
MicroStrategy moving back up, trying to approach 370 here. So nice recovery over the last few weeks here, going back to about April 8th here. Bottomed out in that 220 level. So a real nice recovery here. 14% for the week. Nice move up by MicroStrategy. Trying to clear the liquidity zone here. Could be a nice move to the upside if it does.
This is a quiet morning, though, but the tick's still up 659 right now. Look at that.
Yeah.
So I don't see. I mean, look, it's quiet, but there are buyers in here, and they're letting the sellers do their thing because they're silly over the weekend. They probably got drunk and needed money, okay.
Now we're seeing a nice little bounce back over the last 10 minutes. So buyers are stepping in for sure. As Steve said, tick sitting right around that 500 level. Advanced declines picked up almost 1,000 since the cash opened. Q is now up 20 basis points. SPY up 40 basis points. Dow Jones up 70 basis points. RUT the leader at 78. So we're seeing broad-based buying across most sectors here. And like I said, when we looked at it outside of technology, 11 of the 12 sectors of the S&P, and now all 12, including technology, are in the green. So we are having a nice green day so far. Like what we're seeing, it's following basically what Bitcoin did over the weekend.
Right. But I mean, I keep hearing Bitcoin and is decoupling from the markets. No, not really. Look at the dollar right there. The Dixie just fell almost 30 points there.
I saw an interesting one. CNB, nice move up by Apple here in the last 5 minutes.
NVIDIA too.
Yep. Yeah, they're all moving up. You can see they've all.
I'm not scared of this market. I think I think the sellers right now are wrong. I really do. I really think the sellers are nervous. Sell the rent, buy the dip. Stop that nonsense. It's about investing, right? If you're a trader, even better, you should be investing correctly, not just, this is the volatility right now is slowing down. The VIX is telling you that, right? This is no longer the good trading time, right? It's always a good time to trade. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that this is not the most permanent time for me right now. It's about making longer term theses, and right now my longer term thesis is a lot better. $109.24. We could get back to 110 here in a heartbeat here on NVIDIA.
Yep, moving to the upside. Definitely trying.
Yeah, I posted the space threat assessment on our Twitter page. If you haven't had a chance, go to our Twitter page. I'll put that here so everybody sign up. We've done very, very well there, by the way. If you don't know, we have now 113,000 followers. So thank you so much for following us. I know a lot of you guys come here through Twitter, to watching us do our show every morning, and of course Howard being on all morning long. in our interviews, but we can't do this without you. If you haven't had a chance, I'd also invite you to sign up for Quasar Markets. It's a free sign up. And look, if you want to get rid of those ads, those stinky ads, it's $15. I mean, come on. That's cheaper than now Starbucks now. I made it. It's about as cheap as I possibly could for everybody. We keep our costs down here. I'm very
Best value in AI right now is the Quasar Markets AI at 14, included in your premium membership. Never mind everything else that comes along with it. Okay, tick still up 188. Advanced decline moving up nicely, 3,200. Does look like the markets want to blow off to the top here. We'll see what happens. Tesla is trying to break through its resistance right here. I think that's the first test to keep. What happens at this 294 area? If Tesla can break through, we might see a bigger move to the upside here. So Tesla trying. That's definitely the one I'm keeping an eye on to see the market will follow it so far. Same thing. Microsoft, nice recovery so far.
Yeah, we're going
NVIDIA,
back.
all of them moving up nicely now. So definitely looking better here as the morning comes through. Go back to the daily looks here.
We need that VIX to really drop here, though. I mean, we really need that to drop.
Back below 25. I mean, I just think.
Hold on. Scott Bassett says first trade deal might come as early as this week or next week. So they are, yeah. As I'm saying, if he's telling the truth, if Carolyn Levitt telling the truth and the White House telling the truth, then this market's undervalued.
Yeah,
undervalued. If they're not, then it's overvalued right now. And I think that's what people are worried about. They just don't know. What have I always said, Howard? It's clarity, right? So if we get some clarity, then I think we can talk. But until then, yeah, I still think it's all about clarity. Dow's up 270 points here. I mean, yeah.
Nice move to the upside here overall. Market's looking pretty strong, like I said. Tick still staying positive. Advanced decline 33.71. I just get nervous. Algo's still dominating this part right now. I want to see what the 10 to 11 hour looks like to see if this is just sustainable.
I follow John's trades. He's a big options trader, and someone just made a huge bet. They bought almost $4 million worth of Tesla 290 calls at the open. That means that they think that the stock will get over $300. I would suggest go if you want, you can go to our own options module. If you go in the Quasar Markets, you can click on the options module, click on Tesla, and you can see where that big order was at 290. But that's a huge order, $4 million. Whew.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steve, like I was saying, we're now seeing crypto inflows, 3.4 billion into the ETFs. So that is where you're seeing the buying. So that's retail again. So that's why you're going to see sell off.
Yeah, look, we got to get over the 100,000 hump. That's when we think about it, we think about it from the American side, right? The dollar side of things, right? But other countries don't really think of it in dollars. They think of it in yen. They think of it in pounds and sterling and euro and when they're buying, but it seems to be that the biggest ETFs are in the United States, and so that's why a lot of people are watching the psychological levels of these big numbers, 95,000, 100,000. So yeah,
absolutely.
Silver continues
going down a little bit here, but still nicely holding up. VIX, it just won't break down to the downside the way we want to see it go. Quite honestly, that's the only thing that's got me still.
Josh Hawley, senator from Missouri, just now reintroduced what he's calling the Pelosi Act. It would ban members of Congress and their spouses from trading stock. I agree with this one.
I do too, as you know. If the guys on CNBC can't hold stock, why can Pelosi and others? Hawley's been all over this since he's started coming in.
Look, I don't have a problem with them owning stock. I think that they should. They should own, and if they've got foreign stock, then I think that's a big question mark. But I think that's okay. They should be able to invest in their own world, right? But not trading based on knowledge that they already have. That's what I'm saying. I think
Yeah, but how you can't separate the two. So no, that's where I'll differ on that one. They should have ETFs. So you can have ETFs that hold broad market stuff. So
if you're sitting on the defense,
up, they win.
But why shouldn't they have the ability to trade? They should. It's an American thing.
Because they have inside information.
Right. But they should take that and they should not be able to trade on it. So they sit in the defense appropriations or something, and they know a big bill's coming through. They know it's going to get passed. No, they shouldn't be able to invest in that. They know Microsoft's going to get a big deal for the government, from the Department of Defense. No, they shouldn't be able to. Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'm calling your butt out. Like you shouldn't be able to do that. Right. And so, that's why I have a problem with that. So no, I think that's wrong. But not to be able to trade completely, I don't know. I have a hard time with that one.
Yeah, I think that, again, when you watch what the wealth creation by Congress people who came in with no money ends up being in a matter of 2 or 3 years, there's an anomaly there that doesn't work.
Agree. I agree. There's something interesting going on there. Right?
So that's what I'm saying. You can hold an ETF. You can have stuff that you don't actively manage. You can have.
I have no problem with that.
Right. With you. You can use a stockbroker and a blind trust. There's a million things you can do, but they shouldn't be buying Tesla or any stocks. Like I said, because even if you're not on the appropriations board, again, those guys go sit. You lived in DC. They're all out together having beverages after. Talking about their day. So, you might not sit in it, but that, Congressperson A was banging the gavel and demanding this otherwise because a company in his or her district needs it. And that's going to move the needle. So that's
all right. The new numbers for per capita beer consumption. Do you know what country is the biggest beer consumption?
What country? Ethiopia used to be.
Yeah. It's Czechoslovakia, and Austria, Lithuania, and then a great country of Ireland. There's the top 4 and rotating out by Croatia, number 5, and Spain. That's quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, beer sales have been down in the U.S. year after year after year for a while.
Yeah.
Ticks gone slightly negative here. VIX is back up right around that 25 level. Q's unable to really break above 474 and hold so far. It's gotten above it twice, but it's broken back each time. SPY sitting at 552 again. It broke to the high side once. We had one attempted break to the downside by the bears, one attempted break to the upside by the bulls. And we're right back where we sort of started. They both failed in those attempts. So we'll see if one can get control. They might just sort of melt around today. I could see today being a day where we don't really get much of a move.
We're now seeing on Nintendo the switch to, in Japan alone, 2.2 million pre-orders. Now they've broken over 10 million pre-orders. Put this in perspective, the first week on the Switch 1 was 300,000 orders.
Wow.
This is a very big win for Nintendo, and I think this says a lot even for the gaming world too as well. I think when you're looking at it from that that angle, whew.
But is it positive for gaming or negative? Did Nintendo just put Xbox and the others into irrelevance?
That's what I'm thinking, that there's a good chance here. I mean, I like the fact that it's called Switch for a reason.
Into the movable, usable, mobile, your home things. It seems like that resonates with the generation that is gaming right now.
You can take that thing, take it home with you. You can take it on the road with you. You can go to your friend's house and play on their friends. All of those things. So, yeah,
that's what I mean. I was an early adopter. I don't remember if you remember. Sony came out with a great, portable one that was like.
Oh, I had one, yeah.
And I had that sucker. And that was the dream. Exactly. I was going to have my actual Xbox that you could carry around. And then, of course, it just didn't get enough people to buy it. So, that's where Nintendo it seems like made that move where, you always talk about what's going to be that great app that makes blockchain take off, right? What's that great whatever for Nintendo? They just might have turned the switch with the Switch, where they're now, they now become that mega phenomenon,
Tick down 4 or
like
5.
it used to be. I mean, that's what Nintendo was, right?
Yeah. Well, I think they have a leg up because of Mario Brothers, right? I think Super Mario Kart is one of the most popular games in history. So that could bring a lot to it. Yeah, this the selling here, whew, that was strong.
And no, we definitely don't think the POTUS should sell meme coins. We are definitely very much against that. So no, we've called that out since the day it happened. There needs to be,
absolutely.
And just last week I was yelling and screaming that we need better regulations in crypto before they did what they did, which was allowing banks now to be able to sort of dip their toes in and do whatever they want. So we are firmly with you that there needs to be regulation. I am not a regulation person in general, but there needs to be regulatory guardrails for crypto, for the ability for our congressmen, senators, and elected officials to invest, but not to wrongly make money when we can't. It needs to be the same rules for everybody is the biggest one. I'm one of the same people who think that the accredited investor rules in the US are a joke. Just because you have money doesn't mean you know how to invest money. You could have got that from generational wealth and all these other things, and there's very educated traders out there that don't have the wherewithal.
The credit law is in place so that people, if you do lose your money on a startup, yes, right, because that puts a burden back on the state. So I kind of understand it, but no, not in this day and age. But I also don't want to free for all.
Like we've talked about that over the years. There should be accreditations to be an accredited investor. Do you understand what you're doing? Do you understand the risk involved? Have you been, have you done it? Because, it goes to patent day trading. There's no reason that a day trader that has less than 25,000 is any different than the day trader that has 25,000 and $10 in there. In fact, we have many people that are friends in Slack that were not affected by PDT and now are because they did a bad job with it. It's not based upon that. It should be.
We're about to lose 94,000 here on Bitcoin. Here,
we're moving down. SPY is about to go negative on the day. Yeah, like I said, there's definitely. I just think we're going to see those algos push it up, and then the market pushes it down. Right now, Q's down almost a quarter basis point already. Mine's asking about, do we have any opinions on Grab and more of the emerging markets? We talk about them. We are fans of those. I'm a big fan of NU out of Brazil as one of those companies that you could look at. I'm a big fan. It's not an emerging country, but overseas. The Japanese bank trading companies are ones that we've talked about here a lot that we're fans of. Right now, I think it's a little early to get into it, but I would be interested in the ETFs that cover India and the other parts of Asia that aren't called China right now. I think are going to be interesting. So yeah, we do think there's definitely room in the emerging markets. And just this trade, the trade barrier has got to get sort of worked out for that. They unfortunately, in my opinion, are the low. They're not going to get settled with those countries as quickly as they are with Japan and some of the bigger countries. So that's my concern there. Is I don't know the timing. We're right there. I know that Mr. Flanagan, who I see is almost ready to go into the room, feels that we're still, a couple of months probably before you want to be looking at some of those. But I'm not going to give you that word. I'm going to let it come from the horse's mouth himself. Not that I'm calling him a horse by any means. Mr. Flanagan, hey, with the week of the Kentucky Derby, that's a good thing. You're our thoroughbred.
There you
You're
go.
our favorite to take the Triple Crown, buddy.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys had a good weekend. And, Steve, bang on again with you two guys going at it with, sayings. Be an investor. Oh, my goodness. When you look at these moves, and let's talk to our retail base here, and let's look at the chart. When was the last time on a chart, since that's a good indication of where we've been, when was the last time you've seen a percentage type of move that we've seen like this? You're seeing stocks, you're seeing currencies. I would have to say I don't believe that the dollar index will, trade below these levels, below 100 again for a very long time. However, we're at 99.5 right now, so we're below.
But
But I'm
stop
saying,
there, huh? I mean, I've noticed too. This is about as stable. I was looking at the hour chart here on the DXY, and I'm like, man, it looks more like the yen. It was just moving along, sticking in that little trading range between about
let me ask this question, Steve.
Yeah,
let me ask this question, Steve. To me, it feels like the reason that we're seeing a lot more volatility is not because of the news and not because of all the craziness. To me, it feels like it's social media. To me, it feels like the openness of all the markets, that when you and I were starting out, the markets weren't that easy to get into as it is now. Now you pick the phone up and now you can buy whatever the hell you want to buy in the world. I think the easiness of and having the access to all this knowledge is making it a little more volatile. Am I right or wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. And you know, from my position that I used to be in, I'm going to say back in 2014-15, there were models being developed that would simply react on a simple word over a social media. You know, if you saw Trump, you know, if you saw, you know, anything, if you saw the Fed back in those days. And so you can say if that was in the middle of, you know, say 2015, let's use that. Can you imagine how that's done, you know, progressed in the 10-year period? Of course, as soon as you see a social media headline that comes from a designated source that you've designated, the thing different today is now you can not only see it, react in a millisecond, and execute a trade within 2 milliseconds. So
yeah, back in the day, you had to pull the phone off the wall and make a call, right? Yeah.
Hello, I need a quote. Yeah, so does everybody else. Take a ticket.
Right. Yeah, you know, I think that's interesting. You know, I think a lot of people don't realize that back in our day, there were no machines. I mean, for the retail to get a quote on a stock, right? I mean, I remember the first time when you made a phone call to a place where you typed in on your rotary phone the ticker symbol, and then they would come back to you and tell you what this. And of course,
I used to get the newspaper first thing in the morning to see what was going on.
And I think it's why we're seeing as much volatility as we are, and I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's going to get worse and worse over time, and maybe better and better for those traders that like the volatility. But it's also oversized positions too, right? That sometimes the retail aren't as versed in risk aversion as they really should be. What would you do? What would you tell somebody today about how to limit their risk, especially in the currency markets?
Oh boy, just give me 1 second, guys. Hold on.
Yeah, no problem. But you know, look at Howard. We're still seeing a little bit of slippage here. It looks like Bitcoin.
Yeah, we're seeing that was a little bit of a bull trap this morning. It looks like right now. Yeah. We'll see how it plays out, but that's what I'm seeing. You know, I did warn of that Tesla, and in my opinion, I think that sort of shows you if I pull it up here. Sorry, this one. It hit that top edge and got rejected pretty hard here. That's this one.
I mean, linear regression is working pretty strongly.
Like I said, and that was, you know, it's what I pointed out. This downward-looking linear regression. What was going to happen? We were challenging in the top of it earlier this morning, and rejected pretty hard from it as we approached. You know, that's what I'm watching. Same thing happened on Netflix, which was the highest flyer of the flyers. I do see Mr. Flanagan is back, so we'll get him back in here. Yeah, Mr. Flanagan, sorry about that, sir. How are you doing?
I'm sorry, guys. I may or may not. I'm just having a few new setups here at the house, and but what I wanted to get, you know, Steve, to your point, what would I be worried about, and what I'm watching is what you've got to understand. And I'll use a very simple analogy. You drop a large rock in a very small pool. It makes a big splash, ripples go out, and then they come back. But watch how they begin to settle down. Today's markets can be used. That's a great analogy to say, when you see these events, bam, it has a big move. But the savvy investor, you don't have to jump in and try to follow it, you know, because what you end up is things move in milliseconds. So by the time
you're just chasing the tail. You're chasing a tail like my dog. You might as well be my little lab running around in circles.
Be patient, because you will look at this market reaction. I mean, you could have bought Tesla about 5 or 6 times, well down below, the 250 level, and then bang. So be smart. Steve, back to the investor. These are opportunities that you have to look at. Will the world solve this trade problem? I believe they will. I mean, we're beginning to see. We talked about Scott Bessent. What did he come out and say? All aspects of government are involved with China right now. But the most important thing that I found, remember, you got to dissect these guys. Europeans are panicked about the strength of the euro. And suddenly every ECB official, inflation is well under control now. Well, you see how fast this changed?
Completely flipped, because you're right. They were really worried about inflation. Oh, inflation's in check, when it really was going down, and now it's the other way around because the euro's going up. They're going to have inflation now. So interestingly, and that's a very interesting point that.
Where is your investor opportunity? Look at the euro dollar. I mean, at these levels right here, the euro dollar has got to be a longer term or a medium term, not a just hit it right now, but at 113.65, this is a great opportunity to look at the euro dollar and get short and get long dollars. We talked about Friday, the closes. 2 weeks ago, it was 113.89, and last Friday at 113.62. And lo and behold, we're at 113.65 right now, right on a great level here in which to trade. Because when you're right, when you're wrong. When you begin to get levels like this, you have to react in a disciplined manner. If it trades up, I'm out of my short. If it starts to break down, I'm in my short. And you may get wiped out 5 or 6 times, hopefully not, in that trade. But if you're disciplined, you're losing 5 to 10 pips, looking to make the 300 to 400 points on the eventual move. So, that's what I was going to really highlight in today's meeting with you guys.
All right, let's get to it then.
I want you to just bring that up a little bit more, because you just said something that's so important, because so many new traders think you have to win every trade. And that you do it. We've talked about, so what you're describing is an asymmetrical trade. And that's what we all look for, right? Where the upside, whether it's upside to the downside or upside to the upside, is going to outweigh, and you're going to know very quickly if you were right or wrong. And what it means is you're going to have a tighter stop loss to yourself, right? And when it runs, you're going to run with it. Is that what you're saying, Steve?
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, I think that, as an investor, in class, I think when you look at social classes, right? There's the rich. We always talk about the rich class and the class of the middle class and the class of the poor, and we set the classes aside. But when we look at classes from the perspective of I think we lost Steve Flanagan's.
Yeah, we lost again. He's got problems with his setup there. I know he's moving. He's in the middle of moving, unfortunately. So.
Oh yeah. So but you know what? You're absolutely right. You push that over to the investor class, but the numbers came out this morning. 57% of Americans, 57% are invested in the stock market. Right? If you are an employee of some company and you're paying into Social Security, you are an investor in the United States. So roughly 80% are investors in the bond market. Right? So we are affected regardless of what class that we're in about the markets. And I think that, when you say, well, I don't care about the markets because that's just for the rich people. That's not true at all. And in fact, I think we just talked about that.
No, yeah. And what I wanted to bring up with Mr. Flanagan, and, hopefully he can come back in. If not, and I know you're an expert on this too, is though I was reading is where our biggest problem is right now is nobody wants to buy long-term bonds. Is Blackstone stepping away, Citadel stepping away. Some of these market makers that have always been our long-term bond buyers are demanding much higher rates to take on long-term bonds right now. And what is that going to do to everything?
Yeah, I mean,
but I don't know. I'm asking because I don't know
yeah.
how that.
So the appetite for the bond market. Okay, so right now we're at 4.258, right? So yeah, they don't want to take on that. When more money goes into the bond market, the percentage that gets paid out goes down because they don't have to raise the percent, right? So you're seeing that the appetite, when the appetite is strong for the bond market, then but they think, because a lot of people, I think a lot of people think that the market in general, that the Fed's going to finally say, you know what, hey, look at all the markets, look what's going on. Let's lower rates. Okay, well then there's no appetite at all for that, right? They want higher. So what does that mean? If you are an investor in fixed income, you're going to be looking to the very place to get alpha, right? You're going to be looking for the junk bond markets. You're going to be looking at the higher yield REITs markets, and that's what I keep hearing from people. Hey, Steve, give me a good REIT to invest in because I just throw money into it and forget about it. I don't really want to buy a 10-year note, or I don't want to buy a 3 or 6 month note. You know what I heard, and if you listen to us on the show the other day, Michael Litt was telling you he bought a German note, right? Because he was paying the price is going up as well as the rates going up. So and that's what you just heard from Steve Flanagan.
Yeah, I mean, term premium is at its highest since 2014.
Yeah,
that's a problem. PIMCO and BlackRock are still buying treasuries, but they're buying shorter maturities, 5 to 10 years, rather than the 30-year bonds. And Vanguard's warned the term premium could keep building if the fiscal, deficit worsens. We're going to see, because it's big, because April 30th, Treasury Secretary Bessent has to announce his new bond issuance plan. So August, we're going to find out soon what's actually going.
And I wish him the best. I don't believe in hope and luck when it comes to the markets, because this hope and luck does not exist in these markets. It needs to work. And he's a very smart guy. He knows these markets. He's been in these a long time. It needs to work. It needs to work well. His new bond buying plan needs to be something that is well tended to, and appetite needs to be strong. Because foreign governments are not buying our bonds to keep us going. Look, I get it. The majority of our U.S. bonds are bought by Social Security, bought by U.S. investors themselves, people themselves. But we definitely need that 10-15% that are buying foreign, and if they feel like we are not the country,
a 10 basis point move in that yield results in billions of dollars added to our deficit annually. So that's the other part of it. And as you said, what they're seeing now is that, the U.S. Treasury is long seen as the safe haven, now compete against gold, Bitcoin, and even corporate bonds. Like you were saying, that's what I saw, a shift to corporate bonds that's coming out from these fixed income managers. And
we made this point this morning, right, about Bitcoin. Standard Charter just a second ago just said they predict Bitcoin will hit an all-time high in Q2 here now. So I agree with them, right? If these firms are not buying bonds, they had already bought gold, because gold still seems to be slipping a bit. Where else is that type of fixed income, other alternative asset class from stocks? And that is crypto and Bitcoin. And now you're seeing it with these firms that have ETFs and all. And I think that's where it's going. I really do. I think they're right. I think we do see an all-time high. We break that 108, 109, 110,000 here in Q2.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue there. Then the last thing that I have for us was I did want to say that it looks like Israel and the U.S. might have their trade concession as one of the first ones to come off. So that came out over the weekend, and it came out from Israel. So I feel a little bit more confident that it might actually happen. And they're proactively trying to ease trade tensions with the U.S. They're, after 18 months of the economic strain of Gaza. Right now, Trump has imposed a 17% tariff on Israeli goods. And it came one day after Israel had eliminated the custom duties on U.S. imports. Israel is under the 90-day grace period, and they're trying to make it permanent. So, again, you've talked about we might start to see one. I think this could be a low-hanging fruit one that might be nice. Israel needs our help right now, obviously, in the wars in Gaza. President Trump has been close with with them over the years. And I do think that hopefully, that could give us some of the good news we want to see. as we move forward. Wow, we're down almost a half a percentage point on the NASDAQ. Q's down 10 basis points here this morning. So we're definitely still seeing a slide down here. Tick has tried to go positive. Again here, advanced declines come back down to about 2,500. So market is turning over. Seems to be stabilizing, though, in the sort of the level we're at here. Last 5 or 6 minutes, we've gone more sideways than up and down.
All right, as we said. All right, 10:15. Steve Flanagan's having issues as his move. So, all right, Howard, take us home.
Okay, you got it, everybody. I'll have on Dr. Alan Ellman a little bit later, followed by Agnieszka Wood. And great stuff for you today. We're going to replay Michael Litt's interview that Steve was just talking about later on today. Everybody, be careful trading out there. It does look like we're going sort of sideways. I do expect to see a little bit of a slight move up from where we're at now, but I don't think it's going to be a significant move. A couple of basis points here or there. What are you thinking, Steve?
I think the market is in a trend right now. Trading, I'm not going to say keep a linear regression on today. I'm just saying I think it's in a trading range. I think we see some sideways, and in the infamous words of traders on the floor, they always say it's chop, chop, chop. So I think it's where you're going to see a choppy session today.
Awesome. We'll see you all tomorrow.